The Bermuda Triangle, known as the graveyard of ships, now deep beneath its turquoise waters, scientists have found something stranger.
They call it the Devil's Triangle for a reason. It is a graveyard of the Atlantic. 1 minute you are sailing in clear weather, and the next, a wall of water 100 feet high appears out of nowhere. Or maybe the ocean itself opens up and drags you down.
Planes disappearing, various kinds of strange lights being seen, a whole bunch of weirdness, all conglomerating into this very tight corner of the Atlantic.
For a long time, these sounded like sailors' tall tales. But recent sonar mapping has revealed scars on the ocean floor that back up the crazy stories. We are talking about craters half a mile wide. The things happening beneath the waves are more violent than anyone imagined.
The Sea of Lost Souls. It starts with a feeling. The air gets heavy. The sky turns a strange shade of yellow. And then the silence hits. There is a small patch of ocean that does not appear on any map. Its boundaries are undefined. No one can say for sure where it begins, where it ends, or if it even exists at all. And yet, everyone has heard of it. The Bermuda Triangle. It is a place wrapped in mystery, surrounded by rumor, and flooded with some of the wildest conspiracy theories known to humankind. For decades, it has been called the deadliest, most dangerous, and deceptive location on Earth. But how did a part of the sea that technically does not exist become one of the most famous and feared areas on the planet? For generations, stories have circulated about ships vanishing without a trace. We are talking about massive vessels, thousands of tons of steel, just gone. Planes going off the radar in the blink of an eye. Crews disappearing mid-flight or mid-voyage, leaving their dinner warm on the table. Navigation instruments failing, strange lights dancing on the horizon, compasses spinning wildly like they are possessed. It is a story that has grown over time. One where the ocean swallows people whole and leaves no evidence behind. And all of this in a region that is not even recognized as a formal part of the ocean. The so-called Bermuda Triangle, as most agree, lies between the southeastern coast of the U.S., Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. But the truth is, there is no official shape or size. Depending on who you ask, the area might be 500,000 square miles or triple that. That is 1 million square miles of margin for error. Not exactly what you would want when trying to investigate patterns of disappearance. To understand where the myth comes from, we need to go back. Way back. The year is 1492. Christopher Columbus is crossing the Atlantic on his way to the New World. He is a master navigator. He knows the stars. He knows the currents. But in his journal, he writes about something odd. His compass needle suddenly shifts, pointing in the wrong direction. It is acting crazy. Later, he sees a strange light on the horizon, glowing like a flickering candle in the night, bobbing up and down. In the 15th century, when magnetic fields were not yet understood, such events felt supernatural. These journal entries would become the first recorded evidence of strange phenomena in what we now call the Bermuda Triangle. Fast forward a century. In the early 1600s, the English ship Sea Venture sets sail for the struggling colony of Jamestown. It is a sturdy ship. The crew is experienced. But just off the coast of Bermuda, the ship sails straight into a hurricane. The sky turns black. The waves are like mountains. The ship is destroyed. The crew survives, barely, and washes ashore on one of the uninhabited islands. And while the event was not especially mysterious, it stuck in the public consciousness. It is believed that this very wreck inspired William Shakespeare's play The Tempest, where Bermuda is referred to as a cursed place. And from that point on, the island had a reputation it could not shake. Then there is the Sargasso Sea. This is a weird area within the triangle. It is a sea without shores, bounded only by ocean currents. The water is still, dead still, and it is covered in thick brown seaweed. In the days of sailing ships, sailors were terrified of it. They thought the weeds would trap their ships, holding them there until they died of thirst. It looks like land, but it is a trap. Stories spread of ghost ships found drifting here, perfectly intact, but with no crew, just empty decks and silence. One of the spookiest stories involves the Ellen Austin. The year is 1881. The Ellen Austin is a cargo ship sailing from Liverpool to New York. The captain spots something in the distance. It is another ship, drifting silently in the Sargasso Sea. No lights, no movement. The captain brings his ship closer. They shout, but no one answers. He sends a boarding party over. They find the cargo is untouched. The ship is in perfect condition. But there is not a single soul on board. It is like they just evaporated. The captain of the Ellen Austin decides to salvage the ship. He puts a prize crew on board, some of his own men, to sail it back to New York. They set sail together, side by side. But then, a squall hits. A sudden, violent storm that separates the two vessels. For 2 days, the storm rages. When the fog finally lifts, the captain scans the horizon. He finds the ship again. It is still drifting. He signals it. No answer. He sends another boat over. His men climb aboard, guns drawn, shaking with fear. They search the cabins. They search the hold. Nothing. The prize crew he had just sent over, gone. Their food was untouched. Their gear was still there. The ship was empty again. The captain, terrified, tries to convince more men to go aboard, but they refuse. They say the ship is cursed. They say it eats men. He has no choice but to leave it behind. The Ellen Austin sails away, leaving the ghost ship to drift back into the fog. There are no confirmed records of this in shipping registries, and yet the story remains one of the Triangle's most chilling legends. This kind of event makes you wonder if something is hunting out there. When steel turns to ghost. If you think a wooden sailing ship is easy to lose, what about a modern beast of steel?
The USS Cyclops was a monster.
It was a massive Navy cargo ship, over 500 feet long. It was built to haul coal and heavy equipment. It was tough. It was unsinkable. In 1918, it was en route from Rio de Janeiro to Baltimore. It was carrying over 300 men and 10,000 tons of manganese ore used in steel production. This ship was heavy. It sat low in the water. After a brief stop in Barbados to resupply, the ship sails north. The weather is fine. The captain sends no distress signals. There is no panic on the radio. And then, nothing. The ship simply ceases to exist. It never arrives in Baltimore. The Navy launches a massive search. They scour thousands of miles of ocean. They are looking for debris, oil slicks, lifeboats, bodies, anything. But they find absolutely nothing. It is as if a giant hand reached down from the sky and plucked the ship out of the water. President Woodrow Wilson later says only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship. It remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. naval history not related to combat. But here is where it gets really weird. Years later, two of its sister ships,
The USS Proteus and the USS Nereus,
vanish on nearly identical routes. Same type of ship. Same heavy cargo. Same disappearance. No SOS. No wreckage. People began to whisper. 3 massive ships, all of the same class, gone. Was it German submarines? No. The records were checked after the war. And no U-boats were in the area. Was it a mutiny? Unlikely to happen 3 times on 3 different ships with no survivors. This is when the theories started to get wild. Some sailors talked about giant squids, monsters from the deep that could wrap their tentacles around a hull and drag it down. It sounds crazy, but in the deep ocean, who knows what is possible? Others pointed to the cargo. Manganese ore is heavy, but it can also be corrosive. Maybe the bottoms of the ships just fell out? But for a ship to sink that fast, without sending a single radio signal, it would have to break in half instantly. What kind of force can snap a 500-foot steel ship in half like a twig? Scientists started looking at the waves. In this part of the Atlantic, storms can collide. You have weather coming from the north, south, and west. When these storms meet, they can create what are called rogue waves. These are not normal waves. They are vertical walls of water. We are talking 80 or 100 feet high. They appear out of nowhere in perfectly calm seas. If the Cyclops hit one of these, it would have been buried under thousands of tons of water in seconds. The ship would have been crushed before the radio operator could even touch the key. But even that does not explain the lack of debris. Usually, things float. Life jackets float. Crates float. With the Cyclops, there was nothing. Just a void. Then there is the magnetic theory. Remember Columbus? He said his compass went crazy. Well, pilots and sailors in the 20th century reported the same thing. They called it magnetic confusion. If your compass is wrong, you go off course. If you go off course in the Atlantic, you run out of fuel. If you run out of fuel, you drift. And if you drift in the Bermuda Triangle, the Gulf Stream, a massive underwater river, will sweep you away. The Gulf Stream is powerful. It moves faster than some ships. It can carry wreckage hundreds of miles in just a few hours. So, if the Cyclops sank, the Gulf Stream might have scrubbed the crime scene clean before the search parties even started. It acts like a conveyor belt, dumping evidence into the deep ocean where no one can find it. But losing a ship is one thing. Losing 5 planes at the exact same time is a whole different level of strange. The patrol that went to Mars. It is December 1945. World War II is over. The mood is good. At the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers are getting ready for a training run. This is Flight 19. These are big planes. They are reliable. They are built for war. The pilots are experienced. The lead pilot, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, has thousands of flight hours. It is supposed to be a simple hop, fly east, drop some practice bombs, turn north, and come home. They take off at 2:10 p.m. The sky is clear, the sun is shining, everything is normal. But 90 minutes later, the control tower gets a strange message. It is Lieutenant Taylor. He sounds confused. He says, "Both my compasses are out." He says he does not know where he is. He thinks he is over the Florida Keys, but he is looking at islands that do not match the map. The ground control tells him to fly north. If he is over the Keys, flying north will bring him back to the mainland. But Taylor is not over the Keys. He is actually over the Bahamas, hundreds of miles away. By flying north, he is heading out into the open Atlantic. He is flying deeper into the trap. The radio chatter gets more panicked. The other pilots are confused. They are arguing. One pilot says, if we would just fly west, we would get home. But they have to follow their leader. Then things get spooky. Pilots report the ocean does not look right. Taylor says everything looks wrong, even the ocean. Some transcripts suggest they flew into a white water or a strange fog. This has led to the electronic fog theory. Survivors of other incidents claim they have flown into weird glowing clouds where their instruments go dead and time seems to speed up or slow down. They say the sky turns green and the ocean disappears. Is it a time warp? A magnetic storm? Flight 19 keeps flying. The sun goes down. The weather turns bad. A storm picks up. The planes are running low on fuel. You can hear the fear in their voices over the radio. They know they are going to crash. The last transmission is chilling. Taylor says, we will dip together. He means they are going to ditch the planes in the ocean. And then silence. Static. The Navy immediately sends out a rescue plane, a Martin Mariner flying boat with 13 men on board. It takes off, heads toward the last known position of Flight 19, and it vanishes too. In one afternoon, 6 planes and 27 men disappear. Gone. Just like that. A massive search is launched. Hundreds of ships and planes comb the area. They find nothing. No oil slick, no life rafts, no bodies. The official Navy report contains a line that has haunted researchers for decades. It said it was as if they had flown to Mars. This quote is what really kicked off the alien theories. If the Navy could not explain it, who could? People started talking about UFO abductions. They said maybe the planes were taken by a mothership hiding in the clouds. It sounds like science fiction, but when you have zero evidence of a crash, the human mind fills in the blanks with the impossible. But let's look at the facts. Lieutenant Taylor was new to the area. He had a history of getting lost. He once ditched a plane in the Pacific because he got confused. On the day of Flight 19, he was hungover and tried to get out of flying. He didn't have a watch. When his compass broke, he panicked. He thought he was in the Gulf of Mexico, so he flew east to hit Florida. But he was in the Atlantic. Flying east meant flying toward Africa. He led his students to their doom. As for the rescue plane, the Martin Mariner was known as a flying gas tank. It had a flaw. It leaked fuel fumes. A passing ship reported seeing a massive fireball in the sky at the exact time the rescue plane went missing. It is likely that a spark ignited the fumes, and the plane exploded in midair. No mystery, just a tragic mechanical failure. But the bodies of the Flight 19 crew were never found. The ocean floor in that area is deep, and the Gulf Stream, as we know, moves fast. They could be anywhere. But what if the cause was not human error? What if the ocean floor itself pulled them down? The ocean floor is a time bomb. We often look at the ocean as a flat blue surface, but underneath, the Bermuda Triangle is a violent, chaotic landscape. There are deep trenches, massive mountains, and jagged cliffs. And recently, scientists have found something disturbing. In 2016, researchers in Norway made a discovery in the Barents Sea that might unlock the secrets of the triangle. They found massive craters on the ocean floor. We are talking half a mile wide and 150 feet deep. These are not impact craters from asteroids. They are explosion craters. The theory is methane hydrates. Deep under the ocean floor, frozen methane gas is trapped in the sediment. It is like a pressurized bomb waiting to go off. If the water warms up or if there is an underwater landslide, that gas can release. It turns from a solid into a gas instantly. Imagine a massive bubble of methane gas, the size of a city block, rushing up to the surface. When it hits the surface, it turns the water into a frothy soup. The density of the water drops instantly. A ship floats because it is lighter than the water. But if the water suddenly becomes a mixture of gas and foam, the ship loses its buoyancy. It drops like a rock. It does not sink slowly. It falls straight down. The crew would not even have time to put on life jackets. 1 minute you are floating, the next you are in freefall underwater. And it gets worse. If a plane is flying overhead when this gas releases, the methane rises into the air. It is highly flammable. If it gets sucked into a jet engine, boom. The engine ignites. The plane explodes. This could explain the disappearances where no distress signal is sent. It happens too fast. This theory fits the facts. The Bermuda Triangle has large deposits of methane hydrates. It is seismically active. The ocean floor shifts. A release of gas could create a sinkhole in the water. Survivors of strange events in the area have reported boiling water or white foam on the surface. This matches the description of a methane release. But there is another monster down there. We touched on it with the Cyclops, the rogue wave. For a long time, scientists thought sailors were lying about 100-foot waves. The math said they were statistically impossible. But then, we started using satellites to map the ocean, and we found out the sailors were right. These waves are real, and the Bermuda Triangle is a factory for them. You have the North Equatorial Current colliding with the Gulf Stream. You have storms coming off the U.S. coast meeting hurricanes from the Caribbean. When these forces hit each other, they can focus energy into a single massive wall of water. It is like a lens focusing light, but with ocean swells. A ship could be in a valley between two waves, and suddenly the water rises up on all sides. It is called a hole in the ocean. The ship just drops into the pit, and the water crashes over it. And let's not forget the topography. The continental shelf drops off steeply here. It goes from shallow water to miles deep in a very short distance. This is called the Puerto Rico Trench. It is the deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean, going down over 27,000 feet. If a ship or plane goes down here, it is not sitting on a sandy bottom waiting to be found. It falls into a dark, crushing abyss. Recovering anything from that depth is nearly impossible. It is the perfect place to hide a secret. But for some, methane bombs and giant waves are not enough. They want magic. They want ancient history. They believe the triangle is hiding something made by human hands, or non-human hands, thousands of years ago. The truth behind the terror. You cannot talk about the Bermuda Triangle without talking about Atlantis, the legendary lost city. According to the psychic Edgar Cayce, Atlantis was located right here, near Bimini. In the 1930s, he predicted that parts of Atlantis would be discovered in 1968 or 69. And guess what? In 1968, divers found something. Off the coast of North Bimini Island, in shallow water, they found a formation of stones. They are large, flat limestone blocks arranged in a straight line. It looks exactly like a road. They call it the Bimini Road. Conspiracy theorists went wild. They said this was a highway to the lost city. They claimed to find energy crystals nearby that interfere with compasses. They say these crystals are still active, shooting beams of energy up at passing ships and planes, knocking out their electronics. Some even claim to have seen glass pyramids on the ocean floor using sonar. They say these pyramids are 3 times larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. They say the pyramids are generating power, creating the time warps and the electronic fog. It is a great story. It connects ancient history with modern mystery. It makes you feel like the world is magical. But geologists have a different answer. They analyzed the Bimini Road stones. They are made of beach rock. This rock forms naturally when sand and limestone settle and crack in straight lines. It is rare, but it is natural. No humans moved those stones. As for the glass pyramids, no credible dive team has ever found them. The sonar images that circulate online are often glitches or hoaxes. So, where does that leave us? What is the truth? Let's look at the cold, hard numbers. From 1982 to 2015, there were over 150,000 maritime incidents recorded globally. Ships sinking, crashing, catching fire. Do you know how many happened in the Bermuda Triangle? Only 361. That is barely 4%. When you compare the triangle to other parts of the world like the South China Sea or the North Sea, it is actually safer. In 2021, the insurance giant Lloyd's List looked at the data. Out of over 8,000 ships that passed through the triangle that year, only 2 reported issues. That is 0.02%. That is statistically insignificant. Lloyd's of London does not even charge extra insurance premiums for ships sailing through the Bermuda Triangle. If it were truly dangerous, they would be charging a fortune. They know the risk is the same as anywhere else. The U.S. Coast Guard says the same thing. They rescue people there all the time, but mostly because they ran out of gas or hit a storm. The percentage of ships lost is exactly what you would expect for an area with this much traffic. And that is the key. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Ships from Europe, the Americas, and the Caribbean all cross through here. It is like a busy intersection. Of course, there are going to be accidents. If you have 1 million cars drive down a street, you will see a few crashes. It does not mean the street is cursed. Most of the mysteries fall apart when you look closer. The Ellen Austin ghost ship? Likely a salvage scam or a simple storm. The Flight 19 pilots? They got lost and ran out of fuel in the dark. The Cyclops? A heavy ship in a bad storm. The human mind loves patterns. We want to believe there is a reason. We want to believe in monsters and aliens because the alternative is boring. The alternative is that the ocean is just big, and we are small, and sometimes things break. But even with the facts, the legend will not die. Why? Because we need it. We need to believe that there are still frontiers we have not conquered. In a world where Google Earth can show you your neighbor's backyard, the Bermuda Triangle represents the unknown. It is the last place on Earth where you can vanish. And that is a terrifying, thrilling thought. What do you think? Is the Bermuda Triangle just a mix of bad weather and human error? Or is there something down there we still do not understand? Let us know in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more mysteries. Stay curious.